What's up YouTube, Jamie the Kid 00 here, coming at you guys with a new and improved Burning Abyss deck profile. You guys seem to enjoy the last one so much that I figured I'd actually bring you guys the real build of what I would have played for the Brotherhood Open. And this is also the build I took to locals today as I'm recording this. I ended up going 4-1, my only loss being to Bujins when I had a really kind of awful hand. And he opened Kaiku set 4 Kaiser Colosseum, so there was nothing I could do. So that was that. Every other win I felt was really, really solid. I felt the deck was very, very strong. We ended up splitting the top 4 because we just didn't want to play. It was three of us from the same team, I guess, and then one other player. So we basically just said, let's split the prizes because it was a really good prize fund. So it was kind of nice. So I'm just going to get into the deck profile, show you guys what I played, and then will hopefully be changes coming up pretty soon, depending on what I can and can't show people, because this is a deck that a few people have been working on. And it's kind of an amalgamation of ideas that I've just been given. I've been given information on. So we're going to start off with 3 tour guides. Tour guide from the Underworld is in my opinion, the power play card of the deck. It's the staple card that you want to see as fast as possible. But when your opponent is able to block its effect, it's so painful for you. The main reason I lose games is if I only have one of these and not much else, and I get breakthrough'd. This getting breakthrough and Phoenix Chained or Warninged is horrible for me. So that's the one thing that makes me sad about this card. But if you're able to resolve this really early and usually make Dante, you should win that game instantly. To associate with the tour guide, we play quite a few targets. We play 3 copies of Scarm. I'm not going to explain what they do because I explained what they do in the other video, I believe. 3 copies of Graff. And 3 copies of or Kerr, who is, in my opinion, the MVP. Simply because Kerr has an effect which gets you a Burning Abyss from Grave, and that can include good old Dante. So those are all the Burning Abyss monsters we play because they're the only ones that are out. And of course we play the tour guides to complement them because they are all searchable by tour guide, which is great. For the other accompanying monsters, I play 3 copies of Mathematician. This is a card that I wanted to play in the other video, but a friend of mine didn't want me kind of getting these out there that much. But even though everyone else was playing them, I didn't want to advertise them because I've got quite a sphere of influence. 3 Mathematician and 1 Felis. This is kind of the combination. Of course, the Mathematician is really nice when you have a somewhat brick hand, because you're able to use the Mathematician to dump Scarm and get yourself closer to the tour guide play. And it's also really nice because you can go Mathematician, send Felis, special summon Felis, and depending on what turn it is, you can make either Black Rose Dragon, which makes your Dichotomy instantly live, or you can also make, if you're going first, if you've been forced to go first, you can make Arcanite Magician, and Arcanite Magician can just chill there, and if they can't remove it, it stops them from kind of setting back row / setting up a field, because if they can't kill the Mathematician, that Mathematician is then just going to blow up their stuff in their turn, and it was a 1-card play, so you may as well make it. And basically say, can you kill me? And it basically forces their first turn play to be possibly more aggressive than they wanted it to be, or a lot frailer than they wanted it to be, because they have to play around that Arcanite Magician. So the Mathematicians and the 1 Felis. And another reason I should say is the only games I lost today, the only single games I lost today, were all ones in which I opened Felis. The Mathematician was so powerful. If I opened Felis, I usually lost that game, but those are the only games I actually lost, because against that Kaiser field, I also opened Felis. If I hadn't opened Felis, I had the MST, I would have been able to go Mathematician, MST his back row, and none of his other back row were back row that could have stopped Black Rose, so it could have resulted in a Black Rose and just blown him out. I then played 3 copies of Effect Veiler. These are mainly in here because they complement the light engine, because we are playing a Chaos engine. You can't really see them, but the lighting is so poor at the moment. I'm having to light using my iPhone torch again. The 3 Veiler, in my opinion, were actually really, really strong. They were really, really big against the Satellanite player I played. These were really, really powerful, and I've just been really liking these. Yes, there is the argument that if you're going first, this basically means you're opening 4 cards. But in Burning Abyss, you float so damn well. If you're drawing this, even turn 2 onwards, you really don't care, because you're already generating so much advantage to your hand anyway. Your draws are kind of irrelevant, so when you draw this, it just complements your hand. So I really don't think this is a bad card in this deck, but in every other deck, I wouldn't dare touch it. I hate this card at the moment, but in Burning Abyss, it just makes sense. Then the engine that the lights complement, and I've actually seemed to have lost one of the cards, oh there it is the 2 copies of Chaos Sorcerer, because Chaos Sorcerer is huge right now in removing certain threats. It's an out to Winder, which is very, very important. It's an out to a lot of the Shoal stuff. It's an out to basically almost any card at the moment. So Sorcerer is very, very strong. It's an out to almost any meta-relevant card. One Dark Arm Dragon. This is kind of a Marmite card for me in this list. Sometimes it's legit. Like, sometimes it just wins me games. If you open this card, you should not lose. You should win turn 2. Especially if you open this and Tour Guide and you're going second, you win that turn. Or this Tour Guide and any Burning Abyss monster, you win that turn. But sometimes I just draw this dead, and it's really, really painful. There have been so many situations in which I've, like, Foolish Burialed it just so that I don't draw it. But it's also a dragon for your Dichotomy. It's the only dragon you main deck, so it is another single card for Dichotomy. But in my opinion, I still like to play it because it's so powerful. But at the same time, I draw it dead quite a bit. I mean, my friend who plays this deck would argue that this is never dead, but there have been situations in which it is. And I then play one BLS, because if you can play it, you should play it. And BLS is just silly. It's a game-stealing card, and believe me, it stole games today. It really did. It's such a silly card. I don't understand why it's still in the game, but if it's in the game, I'm going to play it. Right, for the spell lineup. One Foolish Burial. This is the most powerful one-of in the deck, in my opinion. It's the most powerful one-of spell in the deck, simply because it can be anything. It can be a Resurrect a monster from grave, Resurrect a monster from... Sorry, Special Summon a monster from deck, or Search Tour Guide in your end phase. And a number of other things. So it's just so good. So I really like this. One Allure, sometimes your hands do clog, so just draw power, draw power. I mean, that's kind of why I still keep the Dark Arm in, because if the Dark Arm's dead, you can just Allure it away. 2 back to square one. Outs to Winder. You lose to Winder, and there are certain other cards you lose to. This thing just says piss off. This thing gets around any monster that says it can't be destroyed. So that's simply it. And this is actually also really strong because the ability to put the cards back on top of your opponent's deck while you're going plus with your resources, you're always forcing your opponent to go minus by putting their cards back on top of their decks and stopping their draws. You're basically forcing your opponent to skip turns almost, skip turns worth of advantage by putting cards back. And this is incredible against the turn 1 Deneb. If your opponent goes, like, say, you're playing Satellas and they go first, and they go Deneb, search Altair. You then immediately, in your turn, back to square one their Deneb, to the top of the deck. That Altair is then dead, and they're basically forced into a situation next turn where if they do not have Vega, they have to normal summon the Deneb again. And yes, they do generate an Altair again, but you're forcing them back in time so much that you should be able to then capitalize because you've had basically two free turns, depending on how much their back row was able to stop you. So the 2 back to square ones are so strong in that situation, and they're so relevant against the Shadol matchup. In my opinion, it's a staple to run at least 1, in my opinion, but 2 is what I liked today. It did clog a little bit, so I do see myself cutting down to 1. But square 1 was just legit in so many situations. I then played 3 copies of Pot of Dichotomy. So many people argued with this in my last video, but honest to God, now that I've actually started learning the deck a bit more than I did before, because I was kind of rushing before the Brotherhood open, this is never dead. In all honesty, this is never, ever dead. Because almost all the time, if you resolve a Tour Guide, you're going to be making Dante, so that's 2. And your Dante is almost always going to mill a Spellcaster in the form of Chaos Sorcerer, or Mathematician, or I forgot his name, Sorcerer, Mathematician, or Veiler, or it's going to hit the Felis or the Dark Arm. So this is almost always going to be live turn 2. So, like, this was dead once, I think, because I opened it, and I didn't open a monster. That was it. So otherwise, like, Triple Dichotomy is the way to go. It's so strong. And then 3 of the single best spell in the deck. 3 copies of Rank Up Magic Astral Force. In my opinion, if you're playing the deck without Astral Force, you're playing it wrong. Because why would you play rank 3s when you can play rank 4s? If you don't play this, you should be playing things like Satella Knights, because rank 4s are inherently better than rank 3s. The single reason why this deck is actually functional and relevant against the meta is because it can make Pleiades for free. Like, that's simply it. It can make Pleiades, and lots of them, for free, almost better than Constellas do, because Constellas don't float like this deck does. So in my opinion, Astral Force is the reason. Like, Astral Force should be played in this deck, and it should be played in multiples, because you will mill some, and in all honesty, you want to get to it as fast as possible. It should never be dead, because you should always have the resources in hand to make a Dante, make a Grenosaurus, or make an Alucard. So it will never be dead. Play 3, or don't play the deck. Because so many people say to me, why are you playing 3 and things like that? Because you can add it back to your hand. You want to have that. You prefer to activate this from hand, but if you can use Kerr to bring back your Dante in the end phase by ditching it with like a Windblast or something, then you can add this from your grave to your hand and do the effect. But honestly, you shouldn't really be adding it from the grave that often. You should be relying on having it in hand. So please, do not play less than 3 if you're going to play this. And if you're going to play Burning Abyss, play this. Don't not play it, because that's just incorrect in my opinion. That's the spell lineup. Sorry, there's a pet peeve that I had to get out of the way. And then for the trap lineup, there's definitely things I would change in this, but I'll talk about that, I guess, in a bit, because I want to play more. I want to play Emptinesses, and there's 2 cards that I'm going to cut for those. 3 Phoenix Wing Windblast. This is the single best trap in the deck. Easily. Like, easily better than Warning, in my opinion. Just because it's the same mentality as the Back to Square One, except it's disruptive during your opponent's turn as well. You know, the fact that it's time capsules, you're putting your opponent back a turn, giving you another turn of advantage. The fact that its cost is basically free because of your Burning Abyss monsters getting their effects when they're sent. And it's an out window. Window is very, very strong against this deck, and I can't stress that enough. Windblast is just so strong. Karma Cut has been actually really legit today. There was one point against a Satella Knight player where I was able to, on his 3rd Altair, Karma Cut that Altair, which then forced his other 2 out of the graveyard to be banished. So he could therefore not start setting them back up with Emerald, which the deck could have made easily. He couldn't then Emerald them all back and recharge his deck, and the Karma Cut just shut him right out of that. And it's a very similar card to the Windblast, but that extra banish effect really does put in work sometimes. So I really like the Karma Cut in this. I don't feel the need for like extras of this or extra. I'm not sure if this is a 1 or anything. I don't think it is, but I don't feel the need for extras of this. I think a 1 is nice. Of course, it's not a 1. I've seen people play multiples. I feel this is better than Divine Wrath in my opinion. So those are. Oh, punch the tripod, Jamie. Wonderful. Those are all the kind of freestanding traps that you can activate whenever. I then play, of course, the 3 reactives in the form of Bottomless, Torrential, and Warning, and I kind of agree with Fraser Smith's recent article, which said these 2 are a bit lackluster at the moment, so I'm considering cutting these 2 for Vanity's Emptiness, so you should be seeing these 2 leaving the deck fairly soon. And then, of course, I don't know if I showed it, but the Warning is still a card that you have to play. So that's the complete main deck. It's 40 cards, mostly monsters, but like I have no complaints with that. Like there are a few things I guess I could change, but it was a very, very strong main deck in my opinion. Then for the extra deck, 2 copies of Dante, Traveller of the Burning Abyss. You shouldn't really need the 3rd, because of course 1, when it's sent to the grave, can add the other back to the extra deck, so it's pretty good. Yes, in doing that you do miss out on getting like a Cur out of your graveyard to hand to set up the loop, but you really don't mind all that much. This is the single best extra deck monster other than Pleiades, so this is so strong. I absolutely love this card in the deck, but I do not feel that 3 is the way to go. I think this is currently like the most expensive kind of mainstream card in Yu-Gi-Oh at the moment, which is kind of crazy. I didn't expect that to go to climb so high. It's like £34 now. It's crazy. So yeah, he's just really, really strong. I really like this card. Then double Ghost Trick other card. This is another card you can rank up in the deck into Bram. But the ability to force your opponent to use up their back row is really, really strong. The ability to summon this, and it basically baits out any Bottomless or Torrential for fear of it getting destroyed. And then if this doesn't get destroyed, you can nuke back row. So Alucard, very, very strong for clearing your opponent's back row before you then commit with things like your Dante Pleiades. So I really like this. 1 Grenosaurus. I actually used this in time on its own to win a game today. It was crazy. This is the first time I've ever actually summoned this to just use it itself, and it won me a game in time because of the damage it gave me, so it was crazy. I used the Grenosaurus to rank up into Volcasaurus, but I never actually did that today. I just made Grenosaurus and went bang for damage in time, which was beautiful. 1 Zen mains. My mentality was to use this for removal in situations which I'm stuck behind things like Fissure or Macro. I just go Zen mains and crash into something and blow up those cards which are really, really causing me trouble. So Zen mains very, very strong. 1 number 47 Nightmare Shark. This is basically Heartland Draco. That's all I have to say. It's a 2k Heartland Draco. It's a rank 3 Heartland Draco. I'll say no more. You should understand why it's good. And then finally, the last rank 3 I play is 1 number 30 Acid Golem, which I did actually lose a game to today. The Felis was chilling in hand though, so for the Felis rule still applies. But Acid Golem is just your 3k stick. That's literally why he's here. You make him under skill drain as well, which I've done a few times, which is kind of nice. He's just, as I said, a huge stick. Those are all the rank 3s I play. I do play a few rank 5s, and then of course I play the Synchros. For the 2 rank 5s, I play 2 Constellar Pleiades. He's just too strong not to play. I'm almost tempted to play the 3rd, but you should only ever make 2, and you also got the Dichotomy to put them back. So the 2 Pleiades is fine. The 1 Crimson Knight Vampire Bram, I used to play 2, but you never make 2. You hardly make 1. 1 is pretty cool. I mean, the coolest play you can make is if you're able to make this when there's a Winder engrave. you can take their Winder, and this can just chill there against the Shaddoll deck with a Winder next to it, and your opponent is locked out by a Winder. So it's crazy good. So I really like that, and you can do other cool plays like that, like rezzing Stardust Dragons and stuff like that. One Volcasaurus, because it's crazy, and then the one Gaia Dragon, for two reasons. One, because Gaia Dragon Volcasaurus, and two, because when this guy is coming back, sometimes you really need an aggressor, and when he revives himself from the graveyard, he comes out in defense, so you can immediately overlay into Gaia and start going aggressive again, which is another reason to play the Gaia. So it has a dual purpose. I never actually made it today, but I never made Bram. I made Bram once, and I never made Volcasaurus today, so it is what it is. You should 99% of the time be making Pleiades, but you do have that toolbox available to you if you should need it. And then for the two synchros I play the one Black Rose, because you can't make E-Knight in this deck, so annihilating your opponent's board's kind of nice with Black Rose. And then I play one Arcanite Magician, because Arcanite is insane. And then I play two tokens, just in case I need tokens. So yeah, guys, that brings me to about the end of this second Burning Abyss deck profile. Please feel free to like the video if you enjoyed. Please feel free to subscribe if you want to see more of the same, and share this among your friends if you feel like they could benefit from the list. I hope you've all enjoyed. I hope we can get this to as many views as the last one got. Last I checked, it got 20,000 views, which was huge. It's great to see you guys enjoying a deck profile that much, checking it out that much, and I'm really hoping this one is just as successful. Either way, this has been Jamie the Kid 00. I'll see you guys next time with some more Yu-Gi-Oh! Related content, and I have a fair few deck profiles coming up. I'll see you guys next time. Peace!